3, 2, 1. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Download Youth Ministry podcast. Doug Fields, Josh Griffin, and as always, the Queen.
Hello.
It's great to be with you.
Katie Edwards.
You're in the center. You're the center of attention.
I
If you're
don't
watching
like
the
this
show,
seat. How I
Katie's
got moved
dead
into
center.
this, I don't love.
No,
but
it's good.
hello.
It's really good.
Hello.
It's your
And
show.
you're wearing hello, too.
I am.
Hey.
Yes.
Is that a sparkly favorite?
It's just so I don't have to speak, and you can just whatever's
Cut to
on my
the chase.
sweatshirt's
It's more
implied.
efficient.
Yeah.
That's right. You're an 8 on the Enneagram. You
I
just
am.
want to get to it.
Just
right?
get to it.
Yeah, that still cracks me up.
No
that you're an 8.
pleasantries.
Yeah.
You know, did you take the Enneagram test thing? Did you talk
I've taken it a few times.
And you're an 8.
I am.
I usually don't like 8s. That's
Eights-
interesting because I really like you. So
I'm a social 8.
She's
Social 8.
She's a healthy 8.
Healthy 8.
I'm all right.
Anyway, this podcast is
Good.
sponsored by Orange, and Orange is
The best.
all of the above.
Absolutely.
They are 1 through 9s on the Enneagram.
They are all the numbers they are.
They're everything.
They're 7, a 3, and a 1. Sorry, not an 8.
They're so great.
Yeah, we had a good time at the Orange Conference.
We did. It was
a
so
couple weeks ago.
fun.
Yeah.
It was great. They're going on tour this fall, which will be awesome. They always put on an amazing tour, a bunch of cities all over the U.S.
Including Orange County here.
Do you know where you'll be besides Orange County, or no? It's probably too early.
It's a little early for them.
Yeah.
It's not a little early for me. I would like those dates sooner.
Be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But catch Doug on tour with the Orange Tour this
I
fall.
loved the theme this year. That it's personal, just
It was good.
like the relationship piece and stuff. So that'll be cool on the
When
tour.
you're the 9th or 13th speaker of It's Personal, and you're
Oh, you don't love it as much?
no.
Everything's
you did
been
good,
said.
but they're
Well, you're just hoping that,
Yeah.
because I picked a passage, I was hoping, okay, nobody else is speaking on that passage.
Yeah.
But, what do you
and
do?
then when the guy before you mentions the passage, you're like, but then he stopped there, so that was good. Now you killed it, Doug. It was
Good.
great. Your
Good.
talk was awesome. It's personal. My favorite sentence, if I may.
Okay.
Discipleship doesn't happen from a distance. This is so solid, so clear. You got to be up close. You got to be in the mess. It's personal.
Good.
Well, this is a
So
great
you only
message.
need one really good sentence.
Yeah, I thought the rest of it was super average, but that
yeah,
sentence,
but that sentence
off the
was
charts.
life changing.
Okay. There you go. All right. What do we want to talk about? I
Let's
got
talk about
questions.
youth
If you have
ministry.
questions, send them in to podcast at Download Youth
I
Ministry.
only know about youth ministry. I don't know anything
I know.
else.
I could
I
do
feel like that a lot of times.
Star Wars
Seriously.
and TV
I
recommendations.
don't know. I only
No.
know about youth ministry.
Radio-controlled airplanes?
We were brainstorming yesterday. We were in a meeting brainstorming some segments for the More Than Dodgeball show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like many of the segments were like, I wouldn't know any, like Christian music.
Yeah, we had this Christian music
Songs.
karaoke idea, and Doug's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So
okay.
like Josh is trying to say like, well, if you choose a word, it's like a sing song, like
Mm-hmm.
the word love. And he'd be like, what's love got to do with it? He goes,
Sure,
now your turn. And
yes.
I'm like,
like, oh, well,
Yeah,
this segment's not going to
So
work.
any songs, any music.
any.
Yeah. Well, you do listen to talk radio some.
Yeah.
And
I listen to 70s on 7.
So Bee Gees.
So
If we did a Bee
favorite
Gees
70s.
sing off, I only
You
know
know the
one
Bee Gees.
song.
You
I
could
know
do
Bee
that.
Gees. I skated to the Bee Gees.
Bee Gees sing
Did you-
off, please, on the next
Did
episode.
you skate backwards to the Bee
Yeah,
Gees,
I
though?
can skate backwards.
You could skate backwards. Could never do that.
So skating could be another topic.
Skating. There you go.
Inline or
Yeah.
traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where roller rinks? Where are they now?
There's a lot you could do with
Think of
that.
all the segments we
I'm
could
actually
do
speaking tonight
At a roller rink.
in a roller
close
rink.
at a church across the street from the roller rink that I skated at.
Please
when I
put
was in
roller
junior
skates.
high.
What? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That's
Are you
awesome.
going to skate in?
No.
Did you
but that'd
slow
be fun.
skate with someone
Sure.
in that? Oh yeah,
Sure.
They
I love
changed the music, the
couple
lights.
skate.
They had
Yeah,
that the
couple
disco
skate.
ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember the first time I held hands with a girl was at a couple skate. It was in the mid '80s, so roller skating was already kind of on its
How
way
did
out.
you do that as a homeschooler?
It was my mom.
That was your way to meet people.
It was my only social time of the week.
Oh,
Yeah, we
the
had to go on
roller
Christian night
rink.
though, because the music the rest of the week, like the Bee Gees, terrible.
Yeah.
Probably sending people to hell. Anyhow,
Definitely.
Great. Here's a question from Jeff Kokenauer.
I like Jeff, Indiana Jeff.
Jeff is great. He's in Bluffington, Indiana.
There you go.
He said, so this question doesn't come from a place of burnout. At least I don't think it does. Perhaps from a place that could be somewhat close. I don't really think so.
I love this. I'm fine.
But it has
I'm fine.
led me to this question. What is burnout?
I love how conversation.
I'm seeing a counselor now for some things that I just don't like in regards to my response to things. And I'm working really hard to build a community that will disciple me and allow me to have community apart from ministry. But I'm not even sure I know what burnout is. I just wonder what people would describe as burnout. It's not like it's in the dictionary or anything.
That's probably Wikipedia or something, though, right? Burnout?
Yeah, but
Someone
whether that
Google
gives
that?
the true definition of, I mean,
Yeah.
what I have heard is that the true definition of burnout, you don't come back from burnout. Like how
It's ruined. You're ruined.
you're
It's
done.
over.
Yeah, burn out. Like there's nothing left.
Yeah.
So I think but I am, again, this is kind of outside of youth ministry, so I'm not really an expert on burnout.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of experience with feeling like I'm tired, I'm not thinking clearly, I don't want to be with people, I don't like my job, I don't like people, I don't like Earth,
I don't like my boss.
I don't
like
his
Earth.
Parents.
Yeah, I just don't.
I don't want to do another one of those
I
stupid
don't want
events.
to get out of bed.
I hate overnighters.
Yep.
Yeah, you know you're burned out when you're there.
Well, not technically burned out.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
close to burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between defeat and defeated season and a low season and burnout too.
Yeah.
But don't you think burnout is when you have nothing left to give? There's no more fuel, there's no more octane, there's nothing. You are done and you hit a wall and it's over. That's burnout.
I do think that's I think it's a good working definition. I mean, I would think of it in the same lane of it's something that, you're burnt out from and can't come back from.
Yeah.
But, being able to recognize, am I tired? Am I discouraged? The fact that you're asking questions and just looking to pursue what it is, in my mind would say it's probably not burnout. It's one of those things where you're kind of trying to figure out and determine, how do I need to care for myself in the middle of being tired or being discouraged or feeling defeated? So, I don't
Or a
know. I
combination
think those
of
things are
all.
different.
In my little book, Refuel, I talk about knowing your gauges in terms of empty and full. So for me, I learned that when I'm nearing empty, kind of spiritually empty, emotionally empty, like I'm shorter with people. My temper, my temper flares. Like, and you just tell I'm not in a good place. So the question would be is, have you articulated where your gauges are in terms of some things, like when you're driving and somebody cuts you off, do you go crazy? Because you probably don't have any reserves at that point. There are other, I'm not prepped to think of all the
But
gauges,
I think understanding how you're wired and what triggers and some of those things, I do think that's an important part of the process.
Well, and what fuels you?
Yes.
How do you come back from that? The real question isn't what is burnout, it's how do I recover from
Whatever it
burnout.
is.
Right. How do I come back from defeat? How do I come back from being disappointed in my leadership? How do I gear up for another season of youth ministry when I'm done this for 10 years and I'm tired of it and I'm on empty? So the real question I like that he's asking is, how do I come back? Even if I'm not all the way spent, I want to recover from this.
Yeah. Or for other people that are listening, how do I prevent?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he said something about allow me to have community apart from ministry.
What a great word.
Yeah. That is one of the
Huge
preventions of it. Early on in my youth ministry, some of our best friends were the Genoways.
Yeah, I know them.
And so Kathy and I set Jeff and Teresa up on a blind date, and they got married, and we had this friendship early on in ministry. And Jeff was a fireman, so he knew nothing about youth ministry, and so when we would hang out, it wasn't like we were talking shop all the time.
That's great.
I was asking questions about calls that he had gone on and paramedic type stuff.
What's the most horrific accident scene you've ever come up on?
Just letting him
I'd
tell.
be all about that.
But he didn't care about our dips in attendance. He didn't care that I went over budget on camp. He didn't care that I was struggling with a volunteer. It just wasn't
safe.
Yeah,
different.
And so it just gave you some a place where you can be like, okay, I don't have to talk ministry, because ministry is all consuming.
Totally.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the friends that we hang out with are our volunteers. And so it becomes everywhere you go, you're talking ministry.
Yeah.
And I would ask some real practical questions when you're feeling this way. When was the last time you were on vacation When was the last time you had a legitimate day off? When was the last time you turned off your phone? Just some of those rest rhythms that we can so quickly escape in youth ministry. I would just go, when was the last time, if you're married, when were you just you and your spouse away for a weekend? When was the last time you had a volunteer teach so you didn't feel the pressure of it? Usually it's a compounding problem that weighs you down, and you get down here and you're defeated or about to burn out. So I would say look for ways to immediately lighten the load to recover from this. So ask somebody else to teach for a week and plan an absence. I heard Doug say that years ago, plan to be gone. And I was like, well, I can't be gone because this thing depends on me. And then I was like, that's okay. And it works. Yeah. People will rise to the occasion, and you need the rest.
Do you know what I need someone to develop? Is an out of office for text messages.
Oh, I would
so
love that.
It's like you can, hey, I'm not responding today because I'm whatever.
Yes.
For my
you
text.
Can't turn text
You can do it for email.
off.
You can do it on your voicemail, but it's like the one spot.
It's gonna come.
I hope so.
It's gonna come.
Even like a mark unread for text would be nice, so that I can remember to follow up on it. Because once you mark it and you read it, it's gone. It's into the Netherland.
Yeah, it's almost become like email in terms of
a little bit,
being able to catch up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like the prevention side, because I think if you're listening and you're in a really good place right now, this is a great time to ask really good questions about, hey, who would I go to if things get hard? Who am I going to talk to? Who are some, maybe vet a professional counselor now when you're in a really good place of someone that, you would go to or talk to. I think a lot of times we're doing stuff in hindsight and responding to things that are hard instead of in the really good seasons. Who's that circle of people that you can turn to? Who are people that you can ask to be just a prayer team for you when you need it? Do those things in the now before things get tough.
It's really good. Yeah, community cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
Your friends, your people, who's going to pick you up when you're down?
Because the truth of ministry is that you can mask your inner world by having a successful outer world.
Right.
So you can be killing it at church, you can have great numbers, things can be going good, but you could be dying on the inside.
Yep.
And that is a
that's a dangerous place to be.
It's a sign. Yep. It's definitely a warning sign.
Yeah.
I like it. That's good. That's a good question. I appreciate Jeff's honesty in even asking that too, and his subtle defense of, it's not happening. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. And I love Jeff. It's
hard to be vulnerable when those things happen, right?
Well, he's a positive dude.
Yeah.
So for him to even say these words, I really like him. I got to speak at his camp a couple years ago, and I really like that guy.
Yeah, he's been to some of our DYM events.
Yeah, he's just a good dude.
Super fun, super funny. But he also, he just got married.
Sure, he's in a new season.
He referees. So he's a football referee.
Football ref.
So he's not just working youth ministry. He's got a side hustle on the side. So he's got extra job
and a pressure job too.
He's not just a referee. He's like
it's a big deal.
The ref.
referee. So
times of transition I think are really good times to pay attention to, because anytime something changes in your life stage, in your life, whether it's a job or a relationship or something, you have a new normal post that moment. And so if you get married, you're a different youth pastor as a married youth pastor than you were single.
Yeah.
You're in a new normal. And so even being open to things might not look the same as they did before. So I might not feel the way that I did before. I might be looking for a new normal in my next season.
Yeah.
And youth ministry can be a part of that. There might be a new normal in youth ministry.
Yeah. Good.
Well, in the Download Youth Ministry Facebook community is totally available for you if you feel like there's 12,000 something youth pastors in there. But if you're feeling defeated, discouraged, you're not alone in this. There's tons of people that have experienced how you feel or the whatever's going on with your church. So I'd say lean into the virtual community as well. Powerful tool waiting for you. Type how you're feeling. It's all, in order to get into that group, you have to prove that you're a youth pastor and you're vetted a little bit. But there's thousands and thousands of people that know youth ministry inside and out. So
that's
join
been,
us.
I'm not in that as much as I wish I could be. But one of the things I do love is that when somebody exposes some pain that they're going through, you can tell the pastoral people just jump on there.
Rally.
And they have, those, we defend our people.
It's true.
Which is great. Here is a question from Keith Hurt.
Timely. He's hurt.
That wasn't funny.
No.
Not even a little bit.
Exactly.
Well, Keith.
But
No.
Josh is going to keep going.
You keep swinging,
moving.
Guys.
Just read it.
Here's
Just
a little
read
lesson
it.
for you. Keep swinging.
No, not with bad humor.
Which camera am I going to look at for this show? All of them. What do you got, Doug?
My name is Keith Hurd. I'm a youth pastor in Columbus, Ohio. I've been in youth ministry for a while, and I've recently noticed a change in our younger boys. In the past 5 to 7 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in junior high boys with ADHD, autism, spectrum disorders, and extremely short attention spans. Getting some of these boys engaged in typical youth group activities like sitting in a chair, singing, listening, and communicating in small groups can seem impossible at times. I have come to the realization that not only do we need to completely separate our junior high and senior high programs, I'm considering 2 separate junior high programs, one for boys and one for girls. It seems that many boys must be physically active in order to stay engaged with the group, and this would require a totally different programming approach than the girls would require. It seems to me that most youth ministries are not effectively reaching boys. Girls compose 7 or 8 of every 10 students in most youth groups in our area. I would love to hear your ideas, especially Katie, that help us to more effectively minister to young active boys in both large groups and small group settings. It's a really good question, which I put save for Katie.
All right, Katie, take it away.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know your context better than I do, but I feel like there are really great spaces to minister to girls and boys, and I would say small groups, if that's a possibility for you, to me, would be a good space to have them split. Honestly, I've never thought about splitting them in the large group. I think they bring a dynamic to each other that's important. I think you can be thoughtful for guys and girls. There's all sorts of stuff that I think ministers to both. And I think even switching off with programming to, having moments where you do more physical stuff and invite the girls into that. I don't know that I would say girls are closed off to physical activity or games or things like that. So I think if you swing for a couple of months where you have maybe a little bit more of that, I don't think it would exclude or alienate the girls. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot for middle school that hits both audiences really well. I do think like I said, there is a space to break them off because I think they move at such different paces in middle school. So you can kind of tailor a boys' small group. If you've got a really active group of boys, then maybe that small group is doing a little bit more in that small group time, and you're kind of scratching that itch in that space too. So I do think there are great times to split, but I also think they pull each other into things that I think are important in middle school. So I don't know. I've never thought about that before. What do you think
of his observation of the last, 5 to 7 years, a dramatic increase in boys with, in some ways, some different either special needs or learning or spectrum?
I do, yes. I mean, I do think there's just an increase in students being in the same environment where maybe 5 years ago there would be some siloed environments for kids maybe who were dealing with something a little bit extra. And now I feel like most parents want all their kids all in the same space. So I've definitely seen that. I think training up some volunteers to be one-on-one with those students in some of those games or environments that are larger group to help them win could be something to think through. I actually just saw another church's website. Gosh, I can't remember who it is. But for their summer camp, they have done this thing with students. If a student has a special need, they'll recruit a special volunteer, a volunteer to go with that student to camp so that they get to experience everything the same, but also tend to their needs. And I thought, holy smokes, how many volunteers would you need? But I mean, that was my logistical response. Yeah. But when you think of the shepherding response to that, it's like, wow, what a cool idea.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I think your volunteer team really infuses and shapes the culture in a middle school room, and having some specialized volunteers could be a way to minister to kids and help them feel like they can be part of whatever you've got going on programming wise.
Yeah, it's good. You got anything on that, Josh?
Love it. No, I'm just excited about this conversation. My 12-year-old has some challenges, and so his attention span is incredibly short. He defaults to screens before, and his social interactions are hit and miss. Like, he's great, but he's like a little bit his name is Jaden. He's a little bit Jaden. He's just really unique kid that I love so much. So, but a typical youth ministry program, which is sit here, we're going to play this game, stand for really loud music that he's now sensitive to, then sit for 30 minutes for a big talk. Like, those are big asks of my son. The other 3 cruise through, no big deal, nothing. So I really like the idea of someone who is intentionally sitting with him or a few guys. Like, think of a small group leader who's also at youth group. That would go a million miles. Just someone to nudge him a little bit, put their arm around, whatever it needs, but understands and loves that kid to death. That would be such a gift to me, because I do want my kid in the larger youth group, the 30 kids that are, I want him in there.
Yeah.
So I'd like the idea of really cater to him in a small group, but help him succeed in the large group would be great. So show some kids that don't like loud, maybe your worship band or your students who are playing or adults, whatever, let some kids bail in the back of the room. And don't be panicked by that. Encourage it even if they need it, because there's some kids that are sensitive to really loud music. So,
and I think keep pursuing your understanding of middle schoolers. Middle schoolers as a whole, I don't always think that students stand out quite as much in middle school, because my business is awkwardness. Like, my ministry, we minister to a season where things are a little bit crazy and awkward, and embrace that a little bit. So maybe in thinking of the peaks and valleys in your program, think about the middle schooler sitting in the seat a ton of, I have kids that do step out for music, and that's fine. And they come right back in for other things. Right. I have students who, like to skirt out a little early before my message is over. But those are things to pay attention to. Maybe there's, maybe you're doing 3 5-minute teaching sections split up versus doing a 20-minute message. If you want to middle schoolers respond really well to just kind of different elements and changing those maybe every 7 minutes or so, 7 or 8 minutes, thinking through some of those could also just minister to your middle school crowd a little better.
Yeah, I think it would increase engagement for any type of student, though. Like if you're giving a 30-minute talk to junior hires, good for you. But if you thought intentionally, like every 7, 10 minutes, whatever it is, I'm re-engaging them, where I'm illustrating, I'm telling a story, they're standing, they're sitting, they're discussing, just shake it up a little bit. That's not a bad thing, period. Even if you don't have learning challenges.
I think that number is only going to increase. So, gosh, that's a learning space for me right now. I'm just really trying to learn a ton, meet with parents who have students who have different needs than, maybe other kids. And so I think be a learner of just what's to come. So if it's learning about kids who are on the autism spectrum, or that's kind of my thing right now, is just really trying to educate myself so that I can minister to. And again, I was kind of really intrigued by this other church who I saw kind of do this thing at camp that I thought, okay, we could maybe do that, where we recruit some specific volunteers who have a heart for the 1 or 2 and liked the 1 or 2. And so I don't know, I just think maybe thinking a little bit differently.
So I'm, kind of having this moment now on the sideline watching YouTube, because Jaden is about to enter middle school.
Yeah, he is right there.
Right?
Month and a half.
Okay, so a month and a half, and you've said, it's got some challenges with sitting, and, one of the funnier kids I've maybe ever met. He's got a funny sense of humor.
He's got great timing.
Yeah.
Oh, that Keith hurts me a little bit. That was a guy's question earlier. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. He's 0 for 2 on the. He's 0 for 2.
I was trying to redeem it.
He's just gonna keep swinging. Yeah. So keep going.
No, he does have a keep swinging mentality. And then. Katie, you're on the front end of that boy coming into your, your youth group, and hearing that, so it's just interesting to just kind of watch this play out in a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I would say I am becoming incredibly more empathetic for parents that are living this life.
Yeah.
Because I'm in particular, my wife, it is an exhausting, never ending, and we love our kid more than anybody's business, but it is challenging as well. So anything that the church can do to come alongside what we're trying to do as a family, it is a gift to us. So,
and that's a piece too, of just figuring out how to connect with parents as well. So, knowing that your kid is coming in, I want to try to be intentional about asking you guys, hey, any suggestions, or are there any things, we have some students right now who, like I said, they can't be in worship because it's just a little bit loud for them and it gives them anxiety. So, I had a couple moms come to me and talk to me about that. And so it was easy to, to accommodate that. And once I knew, then it was easy to minister. Yeah. So even just that partnership as a youth pastor between us and parents and just what we can learn about their kids. A lot of times we generalize in youth ministry, and Jaden is not the same as another kid who has special needs. So what does it look like to give care and to the individual kid?
Yeah, it's personal. It's good.
It's personal, but that. Truth, for sure. Yeah. So we want Jaden to win, but I can't put him into the same boat as every other kid that struggles with something.
But to me, what I just as a little pause, that's what I love about you pastoring and shepherding the kids, as opposed to Instagramming the crowd. You're caring about that kid, my kid, thank you,
you're welcome,
who is in that crowd, who needs to be treated as an individual and personally cared. And he's high maintenance and going to cause some drama and even a little bit of disruption.
Right.
But thank you for shepherding and loving that boy, because he's my boy.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and part of the difference, too, is Katie is 45, 44 years old.
Yep.
And not a 23-year-old youth pastor.
Yeah.
And so not a slam on the 23. You just didn't know at 23 what you know now.
And we're in a different time a little bit. Yeah.
And I think I would say she's elevated in her age. I don't think you can say 45.
She mentioned it in the last show.
I did. I said how old. I'm 44.
Yeah.
I said how old I was. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, this is...
now we've drawn a lot of attention to it. So Katie's
I know,
super
now I'm
old.
just
But it is a little bit of my pet peeve in church hiring.
Totally. Go for the 20-year-old.
Do you know somebody who's young and got a lot of energy?
Yeah.
And they're going to be making the same phone call a year later because that person probably won't be around. So it's just... If we were a little wiser in the church and we hired people with a little more seasoning.
Hire some great pastors, too. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that was a really good question.
Yeah, Keith, good job. Thanks for sending that in. Sorry, Josh was 0 for 2 on humor.
I'm really hurting over it.
0 for 3. Sean Alley from Oskaloosa, Iowa.
That's not a place. Nope. Oskaloosa.
Yeah, Oskaloosa. Yeah.
Oskaloosa, Iowa.
Allison, do we have anybody hosting at the National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training on September 21st?
Trainmyvolunteers.com.
Close to Oskaloosa.
Where is Oskaloosa?
It's in the north.
I just expected Allison to be like, well, it's just north of Des Moines. That's
in Iowa.
It is something you would know, Allison.
Yeah. It's in Iowa. We have, Katie, right now we have 275 host churches that are going to be hosting
all over the
National
US
Day
of A.
Volunteer Youth Ministry Training.
Including...
We have 3 in Iowa.
3 in Iowa.
Griswold, Iowa.
Des Moines, Iowa.
And...
Say Oskawala.
Ankeny.
Oh.
It's outside of Des Moines.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Ankeny.
so what I'm seeing is that we need Sean. Muscatine.
Okay. Muscatine,
Ankeny,
Iowa?
Des Moines.
Okay.
Des Moines.
And Muscatine. All right. So we need one in...
We need Sean to host in Oskaloosa.
Iowa has way cooler city names than we do.
Oskaloosa, Iowa. Hey, actually, we need more people to... If you anybody in Utah, we're in every state.
Wild?
You go to trainmyvolunteers.com and just see where all the dots are across the United States.
But not so much in Utah.
None. Zero.
We have 0 in Utah.
Zilch. Zip.
Yeah. I mean, I realize there's a lot of... I've heard rumor that there's a lot of Mormons there.
That's what I hear.
But I know that there's some churches there that could host it.
Come on, Utah.
There's a huge dead space around Oskaloosa. So
there is a huge dead space.
Yeah. Oskaloosa, we're calling you out right now.
Sean Allen, let's go.
I don't know what camera to look into, so I'm going to just take my time on each one. That's right. Okay.
Shake your head.
Oskaloosa. All right. So here we go. We're going to end with Sean Allen's questions.
Okay.
Send your questions to podcast@downloadyouthministry.com. I was in youth ministry for 8 years. Then I stepped out of it and worked a quote-unquote real job, and now I'm back in it. What are some ways to implement change without guns a-blazing? What are some websites, podcasts on youth culture you would suggest, or books? Thank you for collective wisdom and help. Simple questions.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
Well, obviously, we have a
show.
podcast network.
You're starting off strong.
Yeah, good job.
We have a podcast network that has 10 different shows.
10 amazing shows.
I mean, even if you never left, and there are great podcasts outside of this network, but if you just listen, we've got one on culture. We've got one we heard about on our last show, 15 Minutes with Frank.
Stuff for parents, stuff for mentoring you, ideas, hacks, tips, tricks. We've got it all. We've got you covered. There's a Youth Ministry Labs is our newest show, and that thing is killing it. Just fun, experimental ideas in youth ministry.
And on the last show, Frank said his favorite podcast was Youth Ministry Hacks.
That was pretty high praise.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
It is a great show.
Parent tips.
It's
Jonathan McKee. How's that? I haven't listened to it.
It's not. It's fine. It's awesome. I mean, are we recording? What? And I would say this: the Walt Mueller from the Center for Parent and Youth Understanding.
CPYU.org.
Unbelievable
it's the
culture.
Best.
Homeward.com does unbelievable culture stuff as well. So you can get up to speed really quickly through those two websites in particular.
Yeah, Homeward every Friday has a culture blog.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it comes out. Jim Liebelt, our friend, writes it. It was one of the top 2 years ago. It was top 50 blog in the world on culture.
It's awesome. But there's great stuff happening. You need to know about Marvel movies and Justin Bieber's new song and what's hot and what's not. But welcome back. Love teenagers, shepherd teenagers, pastor your kids well. And that's even more important than the cultural stuff.
Yeah,
so how do you implement change without guns a-blazing?
Yeah, put your guns away.
Take your time.
We talking to somebody
take a deep breath
recently who was interviewing at a church, and the church said, hey, if you just come in for the next 6 months and just love people, you're going to win big.
Oh, yes. I love that church. Yeah. That's great. I mean,
unless they're hiring you to come in and guns a-blazing and bring about change.
Sure.
And sometimes they say that's what they want and they really don't want that too. So test that as well.
Yeah. There's probably, even thinking through a first-year plan and maybe a 5-year plan. I think we've talked about goal setting before on here, but just thinking through, in the first 3 months, there might be some really quick, easy things that you can do that are really fun and healthy change from the get-go, but then thinking through 6 months in, what are the things I need to observe and what change?
Yeah, what's really sacred here? What can we not kill?
Be a learner.
For sure not do.
And be a learner in the greater church, not just in your youth ministry. So even how does culture outside the youth ministry affect you? I think being a learner is huge, but then also thinking, long-term. Could be cool.
I know it's not on the top of his desk probably, but somewhere, and I'm sure you could get a copy somewhere of Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry, there is a chapter on change and challenges.
Yes.
Good one.
So it's just how do you bring about changes and, with the challenges you're going to meet. So there's some principles in there.
I have a copy on my desk.
I bet you do. Yeah, I bet you do.
No, that's my favorite part when you would teach Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry Conference. You had a section on change. In fact, we have a Download Youth Ministry course that includes a chunk on change, which is really good. I'm excited about that coming out. But you have said over and over again, change, take your time with change. Health takes time. Move slowly. Go to your biggest fan and your biggest critic. I think those simple principles that you've taught for decades have served youth ministry and youth pastors like this really well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the question is not how do I bring about change, but how do I bring about health? So change is just a part of that question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
good.
that might measure out.
I'm going to tweet that.
I'll retweet that.
I'm sure you said it.
Too late. I already retweeted my own retweet.
I'm just regurgitating something I learned from you.
Really, that's what we do, though. We just take what Doug said 30 years ago.
Put it in our own tone of voice.
A little alliteration.
And because of all the aspartame in my life, I'm like, dang, that sounds really
wow,
good.
Katie is so wise.
No, well, we're your legacy, so this is great.
Yes, we are. We're a good legacy.
You guys are. Unbelievable.
I love it. All right, is that it? Are we done? Is that the end of the show?
Episode 352.
It was a good run.
Hey-o.
Mic drop.
352.
Go to trainmyvolunteers.com.
Especially if you're from Osceola, Indiana.
Yeah,
where was
sign up. 2.5 hours of training.
Iowa.
Josh, tell us about it. 2.5 hours of training on September 21st.
Yeah, you can sign up for a little over $100. Bring all the volunteers from your church. So you pack everybody into a church van, all 15 of you, grab McDonald's on the way, have a great time at the training.
All 3 of you.
Or all 3, whatever it is.
37 of you.
All
Or you and your spouse.
As many as you want.
Make it a
as you
date.
want. It's a little over $100, and it's going to be, more importantly, 2.5 hours of camaraderie, fun, laughter, really good training from super sharp minds, including Katie Edwards.
Wow.
You don't want to miss it. TrainMyVolunteers.com. There's hundreds of locations, unless you live in Oskaloosa, Iowa.
Yeah,
there isn't
if
one
you have
yet.
to drive more than an hour, be a host.
Be a host.
Yeah.
Be a host.
We're still adding hosts.
And if you know anyone in Utah,
That's right.
Get the word out there.
There are thousands and thousands of volunteers already signed up. It's going to be
so
unbelievable.
cool.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Okay.
See you in September.
Go to leadertrex.org.
Yeah, and thanks
Yes.
Orange students. Text us for the code. Email us for the code.
Yeah, podcast.youthreach.com. And we're done.
Luke, we're done.
Should we get some lunch? I'm starving.